Hey, this is Rayland Baxter. Welcome to the Blues Kitchen.
We first met Rayland Baxter back in 2013. Over the last 5 years, he's hit the road hard, touring with Jason Isbell, Kacey, Musgraves and the Lumineers, alongside appearances at Bonnaroo and Newport Folk Festival. His new release, Wide Awake, was written and recorded in an old elastic band factory in southern Kentucky. We discussed the themes on the record, his infectious sense of humour, and Rayland performs a version of Strangers by the Kinks. And while you're watching, subscribe to the channel for regular episodes of The Blues Kitchen Presents. Rayland, welcome to The Blues Kitchen. All right, how you doing?
Good.
How's Europe treating you? Doing okay?
Yeah, you know, it's like it is a pain in the ass to get around and travel, but that's the balance. Like, we've seen some amazing stuff, and we've only been, this is our third show tonight.
Yeah.
We were in Barcelona, and then before that we were in Altafulla, which is an hour south, right on the Mediterranean, rehearsing at a friend of a friend's
Sounds
restaurant
amazing.
that was closed down. It's like dusty old restaurant that nobody, that's closed down. And we'd be rehearsing, and strangers would walk in out of the street, like, we heard the music, it's very nice.
That sounds perfect. So your rehearsal spot was a restaurant, that's shut down for the winter months, I assume.
And an old restaurant, it's like, and it looks like a little Irish pub,
Yeah.
It has paintings of dogs and cats all over the wall. But it's nice. Music is a living, breathing, always changing mathematical problem.
Yeah.
Besides the feel of everything, is like every night.
Interesting you say that, because since we first met, when you did a session for, I think we were saying a moment ago, about 3 years ago, I've seen you doing sessions online of various tunes, and you've certainly never played the same version of the same tune at any session twice.
Yeah.
It seems that it's a constant evolution.
I have to be entertained. If I get bored, in hindsight, I listen to any album of mine, and I'm sure other artists can agree with this this emotion or feeling of like, I have to be entertained. And if I get bored with a melody, or if I can't sing the melody as well as I did on the record, I'll change it.
Yeah.
And usually I'll become a better singer after the album's already out anyways, and so
I relearned it.
I have been getting better at sticking to the melodies, but we expand stuff. I like to jam. And
So let's talk about your new record, if
Okay.
we may. Wide Awake was a follow-up to Imaginary Man, which we absolutely loved.
Oh yeah.
And we were saying just a moment ago that you went up about an hour and a half north of Nashville to this studio, which was an old elastic band factory. So I'm interested to know why you wanted to get out of town, why you went to an elastic band factory. Is it as crude as we think? Did you set up your own gear there? Was it someone else's setup? Did the rubber insulate the walls and give you a certain sound or something?
Okay, all of that.
All of the above.
When we finished the whole records, the touring cycle for Imaginary Man, we went out with the Lumineers and this band called Borns. And we did this 1.5-month tour with them at huge venues. And so at that time, I was like, man, I got to kind of get my mind wrapped around making another album or writing songs. And I had a bunch of little voice notes on my phone of ideas.
So you'd record into your phone?
Yeah, if I just walk in, or if I go pick up a guitar in the green room and say something comes out, I'd be like, ooh, I like that. I'll make a little snippet and then go finish it.
Yeah.
And I had never, up to that point, I'd never been able to go somewhere and write. I've always just pieced it together. Piecing together Imaginary Man was difficult because I had a total of 20 songs to choose from, and I needed 15 to record, and like 8 of them weren't that good. And so this time I'm like, man, I just want to go somewhere like I've read about my heroes doing, or my forefathers, foremothers, going somewhere in seclusion and writing. And so I didn't know if it was going to work for me or not, but I looked at like Airbnbs to find cabins, and it was all really expensive and not my vibe. They were all too kind of hotel-y-ish.
Too posh.
Yeah.
You want to go and live rough or something like that?
Yeah. And I remember just an hour north of Nashville is my buddy Billy Swayze's studio that Now it's a studio. I mean, he's still ripping it open, and just like music, he's figuring out how to get the best sounds out of it. But at the time, 2 years ago, he was like, "Yeah, come on, Ray, come on up, man. I'll show you what's up." And it was just a shell of a building. And his family is one of the pioneers of rubber since the early 1900s. His grandfather like invented the modern day rubber band. And he was like, "Man, you can sleep in that room. You can write in that room." And it was in the old, like where the office spaces were. So it was individual rooms for the secretaries around a big corridor. And I just picked one that had really amazing natural reverb in it. And it had windows all over the place. 3 sides looking into the studio, and then 1 side looking outside. And I moved the Wurlitzer in there, and I have my old guitar, my old Gibson that my dad gave me. And it's a nice songwriting guitar. It doesn't leave the house, it's just for that. And a bunch of wine, a bunch of cigarettes, a bunch of pads of paper and pencils, and I had my computer and the internet and all that shit, so I was tied in if I needed to look up a lyric or a meaning of a word.
But it was still a solitary experience.
Yeah, I was there by myself with the coyotes outside and the cornfields, and every once in a while Billy would come through or his dad would come through and check in on me.
Did it feel almost like you were squatting in this place?
Yeah.
Like being allowed to legally squat?
Yeah, and it was amazing, man. I wrote and wrote. Once I started going, I didn't want to leave ever. I left on Christmas Eve.
No way.
And I went back on the 27th.
Really?
And I stayed through
Was it cold?
New Year's. Yeah, really cold. It was cold in the room too. I had 2 space heaters just like this on me. I don't know what a crack den looks like, but after 2 weeks in there, I had blanketed the windows.
Really?
I cut it all off because there's a guy that takes care of the property. He would drive by and look in, and I didn't like that, so I started with 2 pieces of paper over the window, and then it just became my womb.
So when you were writing, this time, and listening to the album as we've done over the last week or so, the themes that are coming up, I don't know if it's the subjects that are contrasting, but there's definitely kind of contrasting feels, because it's 79 revolvers, isn't it?
79 shiny revolvers.
Shiny revolvers. We obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're talking about the kind of inherent gun problems, if you like, in the US.
Yeah.
But then I've seen your video for Casanova. You're singing about a relationship with debts, which may well be autobiographical, but you're doing it in a very light-hearted way. Mm-hmm. So you're taking these really kind of very sinister matters, but you're dishing them up in a way that I'm finding myself laughing. But it's not black humour. Is that fair to say? Have I judged you correctly on this?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
I've always once I realized the power of juxtaposition, whether it's the contrast of colors or a dark topic in a major key, or a serious topic in a major key, like free the people now, do it now. That's a really joyous sounding song.
Yeah.
But he's not talking about like some joyous shit, He's John Lennon, by the way. And Dylan's done this, Lennon's done this, Leonard Cohen's done this through my favorites.
Yeah.
So I had something to say, but I'm a lighthearted person, I always be like, I don't know if that's a good idea for all of humanity, but what the do I know? And then walk on. It's that.
So when you're actually writing, because a lot of people, the kind of exorcism of their demons, if you like, is just getting those dark thoughts, whether it be their own thoughts or their reflections on the world around them. Getting them out on paper is almost enough. But is your humour something that's just naturally your personality, or is it like a device that you use to almost maybe help you cope with the themes that you're covering?
Probably both. But I've always, for good or bad, I've been a class clown.
Right.
So I'll crack a joke in the middle of my 4th grade class about Elvis and his pelvis or something, and so that's just that's just who I am.
Cool, man.
It's nice that it comes out in the writing that you see it, because I don't know how it's heard other than the way I hear it.
So you're going to perform for us in a short while, Kinks tune.
Yeah.
The tune is Strangers, right? Now, what is your relationship to that tune?
Lola versus Power Man, that album was the first Kinks album I had that I listened to through and through, and it was about 10 years ago when I moved back to Nashville where I grabbed a hold of the album, and that was just that song. I love it. I love the recording, the simple drum, just the sound, the organ that comes in. Yeah. And, you know, it's a song, it's kind of like very fitting, a very fitting song for where I'm at least with the Wide Awake album. We're crossing through. Ray Davies and I also sit in a very similar vocal register.
I see.
So, yeah.
Doing some favours there.
Yeah, he's a badass. I love that.
I'm interested to know as well, this is a conversation that comes a lot in these interviews, a kind of American perceptions of British music and vice versa. But are the Kinks something for you when you were growing up that were just like, boom, you know, British invasion, we've got the Beatles, we've got the Stones, we've got the Kinks. Were they very much in the same kind of group of artists, the same breath you would think about those guys?
No, I didn't really know much about the Kinks until probably I was 20.
Really?
Because I grew up with the Beatles, you know.
Yeah.
My mom, I always thought In Excess and the Kinks were the same thing. When I was a kid,
So weird.
I didn't even know the difference. But my mom played In Excess all the time, and I would hear
Were they
the
on
Kinks.
opposing sides of a cassette or something?
Probably, man, probably. But she didn't play the Kinks, you know. She just played In Excess, and then somehow the Kinks got into my mind, or I heard Lola, you know, maybe when I was a kid.
Maybe we scrap the Kinks coming together
right.
and just do like Need You Tonight by In Excess or something on your acoustic guitar.
Or like the NX Kinks, the Kinks. Yeah, anyways.
On that note, I reckon it's probably time for a performance. That's all right.
Yeah. This song is called Strangers, and it's by the Kinks. Where you going, I don't mind. Killed my world and I killed my time. So where do I go and what do I see? I see many people coming after me. So where you going to, I don't mind. Well, if I live too long, I'm afraid I'll die. So I will follow you wherever you go. But if your offered hand is still open to me, strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one. So you've been where I just come, from the land that brings losers on. So we will share this road we walk. Mind our mouths and beware our talk. Till peace we find, tell you what I'll do. All the things I own, I will share with you. And if I feel tomorrow like I feel today, we'll take what we want and give the rest away. We're strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one. Well, holy man and holy priest, this love of life makes me weak in my knees. And when we get there, we make our play, 'cause soon you know they're gonna carry us away. And in a promised lie you made us believe, for many men out there and so much grief. And my mind is proud but it aches with rage. And if I live too long, I'm afraid I'll die. Strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one. Strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one.
Subscribe to The Blues Kitchen for live performances and interviews with the hottest blues, soul, country and roots musicians in the world today.